Hey everybody, Riot Mort here, and it is Monday morning, which means it is time for the Monday Morning Meta Report. This is the second week of patch 16.5, and let's talk about what's changed. As always, here are the disclaimers. These reports are based on early experiences, internal data, things can change, although this time that's not true because the official patch notes are kind of already done. That being said, anything included in this report doesn't mean we'll be acting on it immediately, and data only tells us what is. All right, not a lot's changed since last week's report. Basically, if you look at the meta right now, there's one big outlier, which is T-Hex. It comes online way too quick for how strong it is. If you ever see a T-Hex in Stage 3, it'll just kind of melt front lines. And then it also has way too high of a cap relative to everything else. If you get that T-Hex 2 online, it kind of just deletes things. So it's definitely the outlier of this patch. If you ignore T-Hex, which I know is hard considering there's like 1 to 3 per game, after that is actually a pretty healthy meta. I've been playing a lot this patch. I think I'm up like 500 LP, just trying things out. And there's a lot of 4-cost options like there has been for the last couple months. Ionia, Shadow Isles, Bilge, Slayers, Void, etc. There's some 2-cost options. Yasuo, Ishtal Bard, Aphelios, even Ashe Tryndamere can kind of work, especially with artifacts. 5-cost is how you cap really well. Kindred Senna, Rise, Annie, stuff like that. There's even some 3-costs that are doing okay. We're finally starting to see the rise of like LeBlanc, Noxus, and Malzahar. But there's definitely still some lines below where we'd like. Demacia is struggling this patch. Zon is still struggling. Yordle without Veigar. Yordle with Veigar, very, very good. But without Veigar, not so much. And then there's a couple weaker carries, things like Draven, Mundo, Teemo, Tristana, Gwen, Diana, stuff like that. So it's definitely not perfect by any means, but that's kind of where we're at right now. Portable Forge, nothing new to report. It's still below 4.4. It has dropped a bit last week, so it looks a little weaker than it did last week, but only by like a couple decimal points. It's still better at lower elo. You can see here, lower elo, it's a 4.47. Higher elo, it's like a 4.56. Definitely see a lot of things played around. Like a lot of the melee champions really like their artifacts, but like the tank ones and caster ones don't seem to be doing as well. I still think we're due for an artifact buff at some point, especially in those tank and caster ones, especially. So, all right, on the augment side, a little worse than last week as far as things goes. Bandle Bounty Plus has moved up. People have figured out that plus Veigar looks really, really strong. So that has exceeded Golden Egg, which is definitely in its like too strong of an area. Obviously, you need to be in the position for it. It's kind of like Golden Egg in that regard, but it's still too good. Otherwise, Component Heist, we gave it one extra component and is now the second best augment in the game. Cool. Golemify, looking good. Bandle Bounty, Evolve and Overcome, Malicious Monetization, Expected Unexpectedness, Solo Leveling, and then I do want to highlight Win Out here. Win Out was like right at the cusp for high elo, but don't forget that as we head into low elo, because Win Out being there is really interesting and also kind of says something about the meta, about how it's a lot more late game skewed right now, I think. Bottom 90% of players, it's a lot of what we saw last week. Rumble carry, a lot of verticals, Silco's Revenge, the fact that Zon's struggling, but Silco's Revenge is still good. The vertical stuff, Noxus stuff all moved up a little bit in placements. So yeah, we're seeing Noxus actually be pretty good at lower elos, just not as good at higher elos. On the underperforming side, pretty similar to last week here. Ishtal Expeditionist, Treasure Hunt, the buff really didn't move the needle, and that in combination with the fact it's not really a reroll meta leads to Treasure Hunt just struggling. Wild Growth has been struggling all set. World Runes, still bad like we talked about last week. Alawi Hero Augment, Wild Growth, and Pandora's Bench. And remember, orange here means we're never going to buff it. That's because if you look at the bottom 90% of players, hey look, Win Out. Win Out and Restart Mission are pretty interesting, I think, because those are two augments that, frankly, lower elo players struggle with, but do very well in high elo. I've talked about it before, how challengers think Restart Mission is really, really strong. Win Out, we actually see, is landing really, really strong, despite being here, so definitely not getting any buffs there. Cooking Pot, Trait Tree. Trait Tree just gives you a lot of emblems, and it's really hard to cook 3 emblems all at once. So that's pretty expected. But overall, on the underperforming side, looking pretty good here. Nothing too crazy. And then known bugs. I don't have anything new to add here. Like I said, at this point, most of the team is working on future stuff. So I don't know if these will get fixed anytime soon. Hopefully they can. But these are the known bugs. And that's kind of it. So, these week 2 meta reports end up being pretty short. A lot of the times, especially if we haven't patched or anything like that, nothing has changed. Obviously, next week's meta report will be interesting because next week we'll have the big patch that launches on Wednesday. It's going to be pretty crazy. That patch rundown's been up for a while. You can check that out. So yeah, there you go. All right, that's going to do it for me. Until next time, take it easy.